Hello everyone, and sorry, no Mike Blue Hair today. He is out dealing with a medical issue, and for those of you guys who are tuning in over on Mike Blue Hair's channel, I don't have access to his channel, so I can't update the title and all that stuff. But today's title is specifically, let me pull it up again so this way I can remember it, or read it off again. It is Strategic Non-Compliance 0.21. Mike is out. I'm going off the rails. That is today's title. And yes, we are going to go off the rails. And I think, Denise Lynn, you're going to love tonight's opening. Well, opening act, as I must say. But anyway, to start off, just give everyone's heads up, that was Techno Acts we're listening to. Check him out for royalty-free music. He provides all kinds of music out there. And I hope everybody is enjoying their time. And you know what's going on also? Not Mike. News Now Houston is with Teresa R. over in Washington, D.C. And they're filming an FBI building. They've been doing, I guess, at it for quite some time. I'm not able to see how much, but what's... Oh, it looks like they're talking to someone. Let's see.
I think I said for you. What's your name? That's okay. All right. You have a nice night. See you in the morning.
Yes, no. She said no. She did the smart thing.
Oh, she walked off.
Going to tell on us?
But yeah, they have been standing outside. I'm pretty sure it's an FBI building there in Washington, D.C. They've been filming it for a while.
Look how they're all carrying bags. Probably got bombs in them.
Especially if you're carrying a laptop around.
Yeah.
You know.
So anyway, that was quite the interesting thing. We might as well go ahead and bring it back as is. But buffering. Is it buffering for you? Because it's not buffering for me, and I'm showing good signals today. I'm quite surprised, actually. But it could get worse a little bit later. But let's go ahead and get the petty drama bullshit out of the way. The other day, I shall not name names, because I don't need to. I think the voice itself is recognizable enough. Had quite the interesting thing to say about our show here.
So what I mean, so that's what it's going to happen. So I'm supposed to get a some sort of message from Phil, and we're going to set up some sort of meeting and set up other stuff right here, and he is giving me his word that if it's one of these other bullshit ambush fucking interview type things where I'm sitting there and next thing you know you got some fucking doofus talking about what was it, jurisdiction, same fucking stupid fucking story he talked in court and nearly got fucking thrown in jail for trying to argue jurisdiction like an asshole. And he was in there talking about jurisdiction. Or when I was being interviewed by Daniel Palmer, Bunny Boots, and Mike Smith, Mike Bluehair, for their show. I forget what it is, Strategic Noncompliance. And what was going on, it was, here I am being simulcast broadcast on Mike's channel and on Bunny Boo's channel, and it's a fuckfest over on Bunny Boo's channel. Why? Because fucking, he don't give a fuck. He don't care. He sat back and watched all this bullshit go on. Many people think he's got a fucking hand in this. I say, hey, man,
Alright. Here's the deal, man. You stirred up crap before you came to our live stream, and you should know very well I come from a different internet culture. I foster a chat room differently than you. I foster a forums and a community differently from you. Okay? Yes, I do give a shit, and go ahead and make your comments all you want in the chat for you guys. As is, I like people to speak their minds in my chat. And if you take offense with my chat, well, guess what? You can go ahead and walk right out back the door. That's all I gotta say. You are picking the wrong tree to bark at, or to bark up. That's for sure. I keep my mouth shut about a lot of stuff that I hear around you, okay? Maybe you should give that kind of thing. And what's the deal with this ambush interview? You should know very well, after the last couple of shows, well, after the first couple of shows, guess what? We fielded questions from the audience. And we didn't even get to that point. You freaked out before we even had a chance to ask the audience for questions. You could ignore it. You could also choose, if I hit up asking you a question you didn't want, to use silence. Very much like how I do it with some of my First Amendment testing. Okay? So, my recommendation, zip it. I'm not talking about it really anymore. I may make a reference here and there, but that's usually on the back channels. Maybe on a chill thing. That's about it. I don't want to hear about it. I did a little bit of what you asked, okay? With that show. There's a reason why it's unlisted. Don't push it. Don't push it. Okay? Go deal with the mediation thing. Yes, I listened to that live stream too. Work out the deal. Figure out some sort of middle ground and stick to it and end the drama. And don't try to bring me into it. I'm not involved. Neither is Mike Bluehair. Strategic non-compliance, we're not involved. At most, I am just popping the popcorn and watching the show. So, anyway. Off of that, let's take a quick look over at what's going on over here on News Now Houston's live stream. Oh, they're still watching the building. Nothing much else going on with that part. But, yeah, as is, I just had to settle that issue after hearing that. So, yes, I do keep tabs on a lot of stuff. I do enjoy my internet blood sports. But just remember, I do pull out the chair for certain situations. And we'll be covering other kinds of quite interesting things. I love criticism. Proper criticism. Done right. And I'll be introducing you to a proper criticism. Someone who I actually got great respect because they hopped into the voice chat a couple weeks ago and talked and debated it out, their viewpoints with Mike Bluehair. Bunny, you're turning red. No, I'm not turning red. Actually, well, I might. It is roasting in this room. We're supposed to be getting close to the 80s. I went and purchased a Slurpee from the 7-Eleven down the street to try to keep cool. But as is, I'm probably going to be roasting. I'm probably going to have to freaking yank my damn t-shirt off because it's going to get really hot in this room. And I have to sort of close the doors and the windows so this way I can keep down the background noise and all that stuff. Oh yes, Kumite. And the thing is, if you got beef with me, let me know. I will make the arrangements. We can have a verbal debate, discussion, argument. If anything, we might be able to get in front of a live audience on the morning Kumite or something like that. Or maybe we could drag it over to the Andy Worski show or the Ralph Retort. I love my blood sports. I was listening to that kind of stuff all weekend, especially with the Kilray incident. Let's see. Don't think I have heard of Black Label talking about. Was wondering. Well, yeah, I'm not exactly sure what he's talked about. I haven't really. I've been in and out of it after what was it, Thursday and Friday live streaming. I am hurting still to this week. And oh, what's going on here? Hold on, guys. Do we got something? Let me turn it on. I see something that was a little bit interesting. Oh, they're letting a vehicle out. Never mind.
Nice car.
They probably know better now. They probably know better. But yeah, I'm sort of trying to keep tabs on News Now Houston. I'm sort of leeching his Teresa's stream here. No, well, the thing is we could arrange for that, I mean, a real world fight, but I don't think anybody wants to fight me. Hey, Merbeast! My favorite critiquer! I'm glad you're able to make it. In fact, I had last-minute change of plans at the show. Shortly we talked after. I don't know if you have the time or opportunity if you want to hop on tonight. We'll hop on here in a little bit to talk about the Atkins case there. Atkins v. Knight. But if you want, we can save it until Friday. But yeah, as is, it's been quite the interesting thing. And it's unfortunate with Mike. No, there hasn't been any new updates. And how the court stuff works is they gave me a court date, May 25th, Springfield. And I haven't had I've been trying to get a hold of my attorney there and see what's going on, but I don't think there's been any changes. I'm pretty sure she would let me know if there was any kind of major changes. But let's go ahead and check out this actually surprising thing that someone discovered on Reddit. Let's see here. This is a new person involved in the auditing field. Auditing, First Amendment testing, and all that stuff. But if for those of you who know wrestling, speaking of Kumite, because Tonkasaw is a big, huge wrestling guy, fanatic, you might recognize this person.
are doing the First Amendment audit right here at the Phoenix Post Office here in Ahwatukee.
Hey, you with the camera, you gotta stop that. It's a federal building, you need to get out.
Excuse me, sir. You're not allowed to do that in the...
Whoa, don't touch me. Whoa, whoa, don't touch me.
911?
Call the police.
Yes.
Call the police.
Go out, please.
You're about to become permanent. Get the fuck out. Who are you? Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. I'm a journalist collecting content for a story. Is this a public space?
Call 911.
Is this a public space?
No, it's not. It's federal government.
Oh.
Okay, you get an idea. And he's, News Now Houston's over in DC with Teresa. In fact, Teresa's the one who is currently live streaming right now. In fact,
Yeah, we're here till Saturday, so we're going to be here tomorrow morning when they open. We're going to be here tomorrow at lunchtime, tomorrow in the evening, and then the next day. We're going to do it every day until we go home Saturday. Okay. Oh, you guys are fine. You're not blocking it. Yeah.
You're not, like, videotaping us, are you?
You are live to the internet right now. There's about 13,000 people looking at you. That was a nice conversation.
oh boy, there's some ladies. That's a good way to get News Now Houston to talk. That's for sure. But back onto Top Shelf Anarchy. If you guys don't really know, apparently that is what was it? Venice. Let's see here. Let me open this up in a new tab. We'll take a quick look over at the Facebook page. Dang it. I hate when that happens. Hold on, guys. No, I want to shrink it until I can get it to show up. Okay, never mind. It's not going away. But this is... dang it. It had his name on the front page here, so this way I can remember reading it. Okay, not now. There. Let's see. What was it? Val Venus. There. He is a former WWE star, or WWF WWE, because apparently he was active in all the way back in the 1998. So that's quite surprising, but just to give you a heads up, man, be careful when dealing with the post offices, man. They're not a straightforward thing. Don't know a dude in the video. Yeah, I didn't recognize him either. I watched a lot of WWF back in like the late 2000s, but I phased out of that. It was like for about a year and a half. Let's see, what is the name of an outcome of the investigation? Okay, I think you're asking someone else. But quite interesting that we got someone with that kind of notoriety hopping in and doing this kind of activity. For whatever their reasons, good luck. It's not quite as easy, and you got to be careful about all the legal stuff. On to other news. I released a mirror of this video, well, part of this video earlier today. Well, early in the morning. Bunny, why are post offices worst audits? Well, I'm not saying they're the worst. You got to be careful with them, especially when you go on the inside. When you go in the inside of federal buildings, the rules change. When you're standing outside in the public areas, like the parking lot, the courtyard, it is it's more straight out. You know, your rights are obvious. You're able to be out in public. The CFRs cover specifically the inside of the buildings and stuff like that. With the federal regulations, and there's already been a settlement court case of which spawned the 2010 DHS memo, which is based off of 41 CFR 102-74.420. Anyway, But let's see here. Let's get to the important part. And I want to talk about this specific issue that he brings up. And those are cute little puppies. Okay, here we go.
So, the reason I'm doing this video right now is because YouTube took down one of my videos. It's called UTA Headquarters Chief of Police. I know I put on it a few weeks ago to please mirror it. So, appreciate if you guys did mirror it. If you haven't, if you could find it, mirror it, and put it out there, because a public servant made a privacy complaint against me, and YouTube took it down. I did talk to you. I mean, I did email YouTube back and forth. I explained to them why she was on my video and why, everything. I explained to them, but I don't know. They didn't care about my response, or I don't know what YouTube's doing. But they obviously took it down because a public servant made a privacy complaint. Oh well.
I can't really turn it up much more. I had to amplify this when I did the video editing last night for the video. But basically what he said is that a video of his got taken down by YouTube and his appeals went unheard. Now, every single privacy complaint I have had lodged against my channel, I have successfully disputed and pushed back against. Namely because I'm fairly good at being quick and concise, well, very concise and very, how should I put it, very legal oriented when talking about the issue at hand. And NJ Diver, yes, I did see, I got an email from you. I have not read it yet. As is, I have been in and out of it for the past week. But anyway, and thank you News Now Tennessee for shilling my my Teespring stuff. But when it comes down to this, these steps are what I generally do. I look at the video itself, the specific time formats of where the dispute is at. Okay, the privacy complaint, who's the individuals in it. If there is more than one person in that time area, I then ask. One of the things I make sure to mention is there's more than one person involved in this scene. I need to know who needs to be censored out. I also point out that if it, let's say it's just on a single person, let's say it's a government employee, that gives me a guy, well, tries to do a privacy complaint. What I'll do with that at that point is, okay, well, I point out they have no expectation of privacy. And if I remember correctly, that was Glick v. Cunefe out of the 1st District. I cite that case law when making the argument. It's going, government employees have no expectation of privacy while working on the job. And also, this is documenting government officials' activity and stuff like that. I try to, and the thing is, you get, I think, 500 words to make your appeal with. And I try to make every single appeal, there's no cookie cutter answer. I look at it, I form the argument, I write it down, try to make sure I get all the talking points I want within that 500 word limit. If I remember correctly, it is 500. If not, well, 500 character, it might be 1,000. It's really small. And then I send it off. And just on the issue of if there's more than one person, that has been part of the reason why a majority of my privacy complaints have not really hit me, is because I go, I need you to clarify which person involved is making the privacy complaint, so I can censor them out if they're not a government employee, and then go XYZ about the government employee aspect. So just keep this in mind. There is ways of doing it. I suspect that he did not make a good enough argument. Utah Community Watch News Network. But, I mean, it's not something that everybody's going to get it the first time. I'm pretty sure I've had my mess-ups on it, but as I said, my luck's been pretty good, and that strategy has been very solid. Also, lastly, make a video emphasizing that your video is going to get taken down for that. Don't just do a comment, a pinned comment on the video itself. Make another video and highlight the issue if it's a government employee. In this in this specific clip here, this person, a person somewhere within this scene, issued a privacy complaint. And I've done that before. And so, 8th Circuit case appealing to SCOTUS. NJ Diver, SCOTUS kicked it back. I think I covered that in my Atkins v. Knight video. If you're referring to Atkins. Or, dang it. Yeah, Atkins v. Knight. Which we'll start covering next. But that is my main way of dealing with the whole privacy complaint. And I'm probably on a rambling thing, so we're going to go ahead and move on. And speaking of good timing, NJ Dyer, as is, Merbeast deserves more subscribers and more attention. He is doing the research similar to what I do and is giving great criticisms against my mishaps or the opinions that we disagree on when he reviews it. And he's done some great critiques of me and Mike Bluehair. I love it. This is the kind of counterbalance I want to have. And kudos to him. Check him out. I'm throwing him on the scribe because he covers some aspects that either I have no knowledge about, haven't had a time to get to research it yet, or just straight up he's better at researching than me, or better at understanding. All these kinds of things. And as is, I plan hopefully this Friday. I still got to narrow down a specific time. Me and him are going to sit down and talk about our opinions on this case. But we're going to hear a little bit of an excerpt from his video here about the Atkins Knight case here. So let's get the opening here.
Interactions, videos officers had with people who were filming them, why they were wrong on their interpretation of this case. And while I agree with him in his observation that this case does not mean that citizens don't have a right to film public officials in public, I don't think that he analyzed it appropriately. Well, let's just go over it and you'll see where I came to different agreement or different opinions than he did. So this is the U.S. Court of Appeals case. He said it doesn't make any precedent. It does. It totally does. Terrible precedent, or at least it wasn't good. I don't like it at all. I think the whole thing is pretty retarded and not very well written. In the opinion of the Court of Appeals, it's broken down into two sections. First section is the facts. The second section is the analysis. Part A of the analysis is the recusal. The judge did not recuse herself. They discussed that. They find that she didn't have to recuse herself. Because she didn't have to recuse herself, therefore they can look at the opinion itself. They said that it was decided appropriately, and they also had the gall, the unmitigated gall, to say that the court didn't err in its thorough and well-reasoned opinions. Buddy Boots also said that he thought it was well-reasoned with lots of citations. I don't know exactly why he thought that mattered, but it's not a... I hope that by the time we're through with this, you will see that at least in the parts that we are interested in, the First Amendment parts, it's a terribly decided case. And I also want to point out one other small area.
Now, I don't want to go and blabbing his entire video, but he does a great job of covering aspects that either I failed to cover or didn't cover, because mainly sitting 2 hours in a chair reading through case law and giving my opinion is not great for my back. But he does, I mean, he gives great critique. He gives his opinion on stuff. I see Merbeast being a great YouTube commentator in 2 years. If he gets any traction and gets the right attention, he's gonna have a lot of views. He does a great job of handling this stuff. And as is, I love the aspects. I love how he comes at me and Mike Blue Hair with arguments. He's sound. He's pretty straight to the point and stuff like that on explaining things. And yeah, I sort of do agree on the appeal thing, that it does sort of set a little bit of a bad precedent about they're saying the judge was thorough and not having to recuse himself. And the main point I was stating with the citation is, yeah, I'm glad to see citations. Now, do I agree with the citations? No, there's a couple of citations I definitely don't agree with, how they're used and how it applies and all that stuff. And I don't know why people keep trying to call me for some reason, but I'm glad I got my damn phone muted. I swear, some people that just got bad timing when you start work and all that stuff. And let me check over on Mike Blue Hair's channel, because you know what, I'm neglecting you. Hey, Patrick. Hey, Sorgrid. I see you guys. I unfortunately I cannot. I don't have an overlay system to overlay your chat where it sticks on top of all of the windows and tabs I got to keep track of. I only got one program that does it, and I haven't linked with my accounts. Mike Blue Hair is still got to learn how to do all that stuff, and it's not my fault. He's on medical leave today. I did not hit him hard with a monkey wrench to cause injury. I swear, I'm not abusing the poor monkey. Okay? Join the Slurpee hesitant. Oh, I see Merbeast is in the chat. Okay, hold on, Merbeast. I'll go ahead and pull you in here. Hey, Merbeast. You there? Oh, wait, hold on. I know what's wrong. I forgot. I got my settings on push to talk. Let me switch this to voice active. Hey, Merbeast. Are you there?
I am here.
Okay, there we go. Yo, so, you want to talk a little bit about the Atkins case while you have some time today?
I don't have much time. I am walking a dog, so I don't have it in front of me, but I would be happy to.
Yeah, well, why don't you give people a little bit of a rundown of your quick opinion, and then we'll try to still settle for a Friday discussion there.
The big issue I had with the first part of the case, where she was determining that the officer either had reasonable suspicion to stop Atkins, or conversely, it was a consensual encounter. She was relying on some of the text from Illinois v. Wardlow, but she was missing the big picture. In all of the reasonable suspicion kind of cases that we've seen, Terry Stop and its progeny, all of that is based on, not only do they have an articulable suspicion that a crime has occurred, and a specific crime. In Terry, it was the robbery, an armed robbery, so he had something that he could point to and say, look, I think these guys are going to do armed robbery, so I'm going to search them for a firearm, because you need a gun to do an armed robbery. In Illinois v. Wardlow, they were rolling into an area where they knew they were specifically going there because they knew that it was a high narcotics trafficking area. And with narcotics trafficking comes firearms. So again, they could point to specific things, and when they stopped Wardlow, they searched him for a gun, because those two things were linked. Whereas with Atkins, the cop pulled him over for doing two whole lane changes. That's like going from lane 1 to lane 2 and then back to lane 1. That's 2 lane changes.
You're referring to the Taco Bell. You're referring to the Taco Bell incident, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So the officer said that was somehow suspicious behavior, making 2 lane changes and then pulling into a Taco Bell parking lot. And in addition, he said that based on his opinion, that Atkins was coming from a high crime area, whereas in Wardlow, it wasn't the arresting officer's opinion, it was the police force. Everybody knew. They were actually specifically sending units there. They were sending a caravan of units there to make narcotics arrests. So I mean, this judge just completely missed every single point of Wardlow, and yet she relied on it very heavily for that particular encounter. So I think she robbed Atkins of at least one of his 1983 claims. And then as far as the whole, there's 3 First Amendment issues. She crunched them down into one incoherent paragraph where she detailed them, and she quoted cases that didn't apply. It was just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, and I sort of agree. The cases are just all over the place when it comes to the references, and I didn't really have the opportunity to really, point that stuff out. We'll probably have a good chance of discussing that more in depth this Friday when we have a chance to have us sit down and really talk out all the interesting details, because there is a lot of troubling stuff I do see with the case, and I do agree that Taco Bell one was a really big one, especially when the cop claimed that filming the cop to deter them. That is the first time I really ever heard of police saying that filming them was to deter them from taking action.
It was pretty idiotic. Now that part I don't think is going to set any precedent, and precisely because Illinois v. Wardlow is so applicable that it obviously is just going to, anybody with 2 synapses, they're going to look at that and they're going to be like, oh yeah, obviously that is going to be overturned by Wardlow. And then the First Amendment stuff, she didn't really deal with anything. She just said basically that he didn't have a claim. So while it is precedential, it's so terribly written that I don't foresee anything actually coming from it.
Yeah, and that was, it at best it might establish a little bit of the time, place, and manner issue, but even then, it's, yeah, as you stated, it's too inconcise to really be applied, especially with the references they're using. That, go ahead.
I'm not entirely sure that you actually understand the time, place, and manner issue, and I don't mean to be rude about that. I'm saying this as a lawyer who, I struggle with it, and I passed the bar where I had to talk about it. So it's a more detailed issue. Most First Amendment claims, you have to figure out how you're going to approach the analysis, and time, place, and manner is only one of them, and that only works if they're in. You have to figure out what kind of forum they're in. There's all these different steps that you have to take before you even could go into time, place, and manner, like the Facebook thing, where they were deleting his comments on Facebook. That's not a time, place, and manner restriction.
Yeah, and that we've already seen. There's already been a couple of successful lawsuits on the Facebook moderation stuff, and then there's ongoing lawsuits across the country over that, where government agencies have been moderating or deleting comments unfairly.
That's content discrimination. That would be handled under a strict scrutiny analysis, where the government is almost always going to lose. Where he was denied access to the police media training day, that is also not a time, place, or manner. I analyzed it under that because that's kind of what you were doing, but that's also not a time, place, or manner restriction.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, you obviously got more experience on the whole legal side and time in it than I obviously do, and maybe I'll eventually end up at your level at some point. And I do agree. I am ignorant. Yeah, I am ignorant in a lot of stuff, but I'm trying to study and learn as much as I can, retain it. I have actually a bad memory issue, and so retaining is actually a difficulty when it comes to certain stuff.
But just to give you a bit of an understanding of where I'm at, I am fairly new to being a lawyer. I was admitted to the bar in this year, 2018. So I'm sure somebody's going to dox me on this sooner or later. So I just figured I'd be upfront with it. I am not a specialist in First Amendment law. I did become a lawyer because of the First Amendment audits that I was seeing out of Jeff Gray and people like that they were legitimately filming. There was nothing wrong with what they were doing, and their rights were just trampled on. So that's why I decided. I've had a law degree for a long time, but I finally decided to do it to get into this particular field. So, and even with that, even with my love and passion for it, the First Amendment is just convoluted as all heck.
Oh yeah, I agree. It's amazing what just some things can be so off the wall, or some of the interesting cases of what they're about, and you're just going, what?
Yeah,
but
like a First Amendment analysis of whether or not you can put mail into a mailbox if you're not the post office.
Oh, really? There is a case on that?
Absolutely. I've cited it somewhere. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but it's one of the cases that that really substantiates this whole post office thing. That, I think it's Coquinda. I'm not in front of a computer or anything.
Oh, I'm not expecting you to retain stuff off the top of your head. There will be plenty of ample time, because I want to have you, because the fact that you know so much, I would love to have you on many times in the future to talk about various cases, because you have a different perspective and understanding than I do. And I think it would benefit both our audiences to be able to have these discussions and get a better understanding from these two different opinions when looking at some of these cases. Especially, you obviously have heard of different kinds of cases that I have not even learned about or even had a chance to look at.
There's a lot out there. The best thing you could do is when you start going through all these links is well, when you pull up a case, just follow all the links. Try to figure out how they got to where they are, what kind of building blocks are used. Because one of the big things that gets people is on these right to film police issues, where they say that if you're in public, you could film what the police are doing in public, right? That's what the court says. But what they leave unsaid in that is what they mean by public. And what they mean by public is if you're in a public forum. If you're in a traditional public forum, there's basically nothing the police can do to limit your filming. Or if you're in a designated forum, that's unlimited, but that's a different class. So
obviously, I look for. There's a reason why I subscribe to you. There's also a big reason why I'm telling people to subscribe to you and pay attention to your videos, is because you got information that would be handy. And I see First Amendment auditors should really take heed about some of the advice that you give and information you give out on your channel, because I have a difficulty trying to get through to them, going, hey, yo, like the whole post office stuff, that's a dicey area. It's not really as clear-cut as you think it is. And me and News Now Houston have both been harping on that issue.
Yeah, even Hemming, I know he's been getting a lot of bad rap. But inside of all the negative things, he does have some pearls of wisdom where I mean, you got to give the guy credit. He has been, I know I've probably just pissed off everybody in your chat, but he has been an activist for a long, long time, and he has done activism. And he's dealt with like Carlos Miller, the guy who started PNAC. I mean, he knows all these things. And I'm sure that he has an activist's grasp of the First Amendment. And that's one thing I'm missing, is I've never been an activist. I was scared out of my mind that if I get arrested for being an activist, that I wouldn't be admitted into the bar. And now that I'm in the bar, if I become an activist, then I can theoretically I could lose my bar license. So
yeah,
catch-22.
Yeah, when you start practicing law, you got to deal with higher standards, because the bar, it doesn't want people screwing up other people's lives through bad practices of being a lawyer and all that stuff.
Exactly.
Not to mention also, don't you have to also retain your bar membership if you become a practicing judge too?
Oh yeah, you gotta. They want their money. I've spent more than $1,000 so far, and I haven't been a lawyer for a whole year yet, just on bar stuff.
I can understand. Yeah, it reminds me back when I used to be an electrician. Just starting out, you had to pay the fee for getting cleared from the state, saying you can work do the job. You got your was it your apprenticeship dues, your study material, and your tools. Any kind of profession or trade is going to have a lot of costs that go into it.
Everybody's got to get their paper on you.
Oh yeah.
But that does lead me to one other thing. Speaking of the bar, I can't give anybody legal advice. If you do come to me, I'm not your lawyer. I'll be happy to engage with hypotheticals and things like that, but I'm not anybody's lawyer here. And the other thing is that I'm wrong sometimes. I'll just be honest about it. If you look at any lawyer out there, in any case, he's got basically a 50-50 chance of being on the wrong side of that case. And even the judge has a chance of being overturned. So, you know, take everything that I say with a grain of salt. Always attach a probably to it.
Yeah, and I agree on that part. I mean, with this case that, I mean, with dealing with Springfield right now, it could go completely wrong in a bad direction, and I had to take it through the appeals and all that stuff. But I've been mentally preparing myself for that and just readying for it and all that stuff. Some people are asking why I haven't done First Amendment stuff. It's because I got one case already going on that's enough stress tacked on for right now, in my opinion.
People don't realize how much writing and researching and all the time it takes to gather all the info. There's so much to do with the case. Well, one question I have for you, Mr. Auditor, is
I'm a tester, not an auditor. So.
Okay. Have you ever been charged with or have somebody throw an eavesdropping statute at you?
Surprisingly, I have not had that thrown at me.
Because that's what's, I'm just wondering when the first one is going to come. These guys are walking into courts and they're walking into police stations and things like that, and they are recording other people's conversations. And I'm just wondering, like, who told them this is a good idea?
Yeah, I agree with you on the courthouse stuff. I realized that there is a big, huge, just what ifs and legalese that can trip you up when you're doing that. And it's part of the reason why I generally, if I film a courthouse, it's from the outside. And even then, I try to research the local rules when it comes to that specific courthouse's policy for photography for in and around the property and inside the courthouse and courtrooms themselves.
Yeah, it's there's a lot to think about, because not only do you have to deal with federal law, but there's state laws, there's court orders, court injunctions. Believe it or not, you can be affected by an injunction that you weren't a party to. And people don't like to hear that, but part of the fun about being a person who knows the law is you get to tell people all the laws that don't work in their favor as well as the laws that do. And just because I say that, you know, this is the way the law is, that doesn't mean that I want it to be the way the law is. But
yeah, and I agree. And I agree with that, and I'm glad to have someone that's able to sit there and go, yeah, this is how the law works against you. And I want to hear that information. I think for people that are doing the First Amendment auditing and testing and the cop watching, they need to hear that information, because they need to know where the trip lines are at in order to avoid not stepping on them or setting them off, and then all of a sudden they got a criminal case they can't beat.
Exactly. I think that these guys who are playing with the games with, like, going into the police stations and filming and going into the USPSs and filming, most of them, I think, are playing a game, a drama game, just for the revenue. I mean, I hate to sound like that guy, but if you watch what they're doing, they go in, they raise their stink, and then they beat feet. They get outside, they get onto a known good spot. They get onto the sidewalk and they're like, nanner, 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 you can't get me. So the cops show up. You're no longer trespassing. And the cops don't want to deal with the paperwork or whatever, and they go on their way. But these guys know that if they stay inside of that building, that they're going to get trespassed. It's going to turn into a criminal trespass, and, you know, next thing they know, they're paying fines, or maybe doing a few days in jail or community service or something.
Yeah, actually, I mean, sort of a good example of someone who sort of probably bit off more than they can chew. I think it was Oath County Project, where they had more cases than they could handle, and they ended up taking a deal on a plea deal with some sort of like trespass case or something like that for federal property. In my opinion, he probably could have won that case, but as is, hindsight's always 20/20. But you got to be careful with that kind of stuff. And the thing is that there's a reason why I don't really push it. There's a reason why I don't have views. I'm not up in the 20 or 30,000 subscribers. I'm not around for when you have the bad actors that show up and try to bully you around or something like that. I just probably give off the air of don't screw with me kind of thing, or don't mess with the guy. He's just doing his own kooky thing. It's one of those two things I'm betting. That's why I don't really get any hassle or any problems outside of just the rare exception. And I'll have the same. Boring videos.
One of the guys who got me into this, because it was you sitting on that walking sitting stick with that, with that fool at the airport up in Alaska, just talking and jibber jabbering. That was amazing. I was like, this is gold what this guy's doing.
Yeah,
so
well,
I think he,
how should I put it? Well, that's actually my cane, and yeah, as is. I got into this to explore the aspect of exercising the right of not speaking, and exercising the right to remain silent, and seeing how that changes the dynamic. Because I got annoyed with everybody just yammering and talking too much. I'm like, come on, quit talking! You're giving too much information away.
But like even today, Jeff Gray has a huge following.
Oh yeah.
Who's the guy? I don't answer questions.
Kenny Suter. He's actually
Kenny
dealing.
Suter.
Yeah, I love him. He's actually part of the inspiration behind silent treatment. I just took it a little bit step further at the silence part.
He still has a ton of subscribers, and he didn't put out content for like a decade.
Yeah, he's actually dealing with a family issue. His daughter, I can't remember what was the disease, but it's literally something that eats away at the nerves, and she's stuck in a wheelchair. And so I think he's the primary care provider for her, and that's part of probably the big reason why he hasn't been active in so many years, is because he's trying to take care of his sick daughter.
But my point is that the guys with the good audits, they get their audience and they keep them, and they don't spend all their time in jail fighting legal battles. Like you kept your audience. You've been solid 20K for how long?
Well, I'm not 20K. I'm at just above 10K, and I just got above 10K when I got arrested over at Springfield. And I just go ahead.
More than that.
Huh?
I thought you were more than that. But like Jeff Gray, he maintains his audience and he doesn't hardly put out any content. Turner, he hasn't put out really any audits in forever. He still maintains his audience. There's a real thirst, I think, for it, and I think these guys are going to the kind of shock audit where they go in there and they holler and they stomp their feet and they demand your attention, and then they back out and point their finger and, oh, this guy was a tyrant because he took the bait. So
yeah, it falls into the concept controversy and conflict drive viewership, and people know that, and they want those views, and some of them they're able to monetize it, and they're able to monetize it decently, and they pull in the views. For me, I have a boring channel. The most exciting stuff really happens, I mean, more recently, is just me going on a bar crawl looking to see if who's getting hemmed up by the cops and filming that. Otherwise, it's like, go ahead.
I have a question for you. I know that you and Mikey Bluehair talk a lot about how the popular sentiment is rising up against the police. Do you believe that the popular sentiment is rising, not whether it should or shouldn't be, but do you believe it is rising up against the police?
I do see the police are being more and more viewed in a negative light for a lot of the bad actions that are happening. How that plays out in the future, it's still up in the air, in my opinion. It can get better, it can get worse. It really depends on how the police unions and the agencies police themselves. But as is, we're not seeing a good enough self-policing on their side, where people are getting upset with the bad police officers that are within their ranks that are screwing things up.
Here's an unpopular opinion for you then. I think the police are very popular. They're way more popular than the First Amendment or civil rights auditing crowd.
Oh, without a doubt, they're way more popular than me or anybody else that's doing this stuff. I mean, it's Huh?
They're insanely more popular.
Oh, hell yeah. I get arguments all the time with people online about the whole the First Amendment testing and auditing and cop watching. And I do enjoy those debates and discussions quite often. But I mean, as is, it's around every single turn. But as is, people, the more I talk to people outside that, they start viewing, well, maybe he's got a point. There might be a reason why he's doing what he's doing. And I mean, I've documented more than good enough reasons. Go ahead.
The other thing that I would like to ask you is, do you see any connections between this community, the civil rights auditing community, and the sovereign citizen movement?
How should I put... I'm trying to think of the good answer on this. I don't really see them being together, but I do see them... There's enough commonality between the two movements when it comes to like the legal stuff that there is crosstalk. But there is definitely, from a lot of my past conversations with other people that are doing all the auditing and testing, and some sovereign citizens themselves, talking with them, that there is definitely distrust between the two ranks. Mainly, I mean, with the First Amendment auditing testing, a lot of people going, yeah, you don't really, you're misconstruing the law with the whole, like, the gold fringe thing around the flag. I'm just like, that has nothing to do with the laws of the land.
It's a maritime court.
Exactly. I'm just sitting there like, what? Where are you getting this stuff? I mean, even would say if it was written 300 years ago, guess what? No one's really paying attention to that stuff, and you're going to have a hard time trying to validate your current argument with something that probably has been invalidated 3 or 4 times to the courts in some old records that no one's looked at.
What the law is, it just won't get you far.
Yeah, you have, when you are in the courtroom, it's a whole different world and aspect that you're dealing with. And go ahead.
Back to unpopular opinions. I think that these are a couple of the things that Hemming was talking about. Again, I know that this is probably getting your audience all pissed off at me, but this is what it is.
They're not. They're just wondering who's on the phone, and everybody's like, "No, it's Merbeast. He's on the phone." So
the whole thing that, like, I don't know if you picked up on this, but one of the things that Hemming was going off about was this. He got this guy when he was talking about the NAIR project that you're doing. We got this guy. He just wanted to keep talking about personal jurisdiction. He almost got himself arrested. That's a sovereign citizen tactic, to argue personal jurisdiction in a criminal court. And it doesn't do anything towards making the courts like you more. It doesn't do anything towards making the public like you more. Now, I think everybody should have the right to say what they want to say, so I'm not going to tell anybody not to associate or not to do First Amendment audits. I think that's where I disagree with Hemming. But he does have a valid point in that some of the optics that this community is currently presenting are negative. He was pointing at somebody who was apparently, I don't care about the drama of it, but somebody who's apparently a child molester at some point in time. I honestly don't care. If you look at someone, they don't have a big flashing child molester sign on them, and if they're holding a camera, they should have every right that everybody else has. And I don't understand quite his morality, why he would draw the line between a child molester and someone who has a felony sexual assault on their record. I don't know where he goes with that. But I think his ultimate point is that we're not doing the movement any service, because there's 2 ways that you can get these laws changed. You can go to court, and you can convince a judge that you're on the right side of justice, or you can get the people behind you and get legislation passed. So I think that's where he's going with that.
Yeah, well, and the thing is dealing with legislation is playing the political power moves is always difficult. Before I got involved in the whole First Amendment auditing, testing, cop watching, and all that fun stuff, I actually was involved in trying to do political reform and all that stuff. It cost me out the ass and money to the point where it pretty much just put me in debt for the most part. So I'm just like, yeah, it is a very tough and very expensive endeavor to go and do. and not just dealing with political reform, just trying to push legislation and stuff like that. It is very time and cost intensive in many cases.
But just think about like the shooting in Florida. Again, I'm not going to take a side either way on that. I'm just going to talk about the optics of it. But if you look at that particular case, the media did a heck of a job playing up the likability. You may disagree whether or not they were likable, of the students, and they were pushing hard for gun reform. So one of the things that I think Felipe is looking at, because I do think he has a lot of passion for this. I mean, you know, say what you will about the guy, he has shortcomings, agreed, but I think he has a passion for First Amendment auditing, and I think what he wants to do is he wants to get the optics of it to the point where people just naturally want to align themselves with us. Maybe like that, there's a Utah, the Stop and ID amendment, the Stop and ID law in Utah, where they can, if they have to do a Terry stop, they can demand your name, your address, and you have to account for what you're doing. That's compelled speech, right? So shouldn't everybody want to not have to be forced to talk? So why can't we get everybody on board with that by having likable people? I think that's where it's going. But again, I don't want to stop anybody from doing it in the audience.
Well, yeah, and the thing is I think actually that last part might be in violation of Hibble v. I think it was the 5th or 6th District Nevada Court of Nevada, where
Hibble v. the 6th District, yeah.
Yeah,
it's a 9th District case, but.
Yeah, I mean, still, that actually I think went to SCOTUS, but I'll double check.
It was still a 9th District case.
Yeah,
it's Hibble versus the 6th Circuit Court or 6th something court, but it's a Nevada State court that he's against.
Yeah, I always refer to it as Hibble v. Nevada, which is probably an inaccurate title as hell, but at least it gets you an idea of where it's at, because the way I memorize stuff is summarizing, which is even then, it can lead to inconsistencies and problems. So
save that room on your hard drive, man.
Yeah, well, it's trying to make sure you jam it in there where you can retain it in the first place. It's like I keep writing burning bad DVDs, and I have to redo it again. But yeah, that's why. What was it? Like remembering that CFR with the DHS memo. It took me 6 months to get that hard lined. That just the 41 CFR 102-74. It took me 6 months to memorize that. Which is sad.
Are we on the same page though that does not apply to the post office?
I think we need to talk about that a little bit more because I haven't had a chance to sit down and listen to all of that video. I've sat there and skipped through a couple of them, and I did hear some of your arguments on that, but I didn't really, how should I put it? I have not been in a mental state to really retain or understand a lot of stuff because of the amount of pain I've been in since Friday. So, or Saturday morning after the the bar hop. Friday night, and then I went cycling about 10 miles Thursday, and that was a big mistake. on the bad joints, man, that was a big mistake. But I'm still getting exercise. Oh yeah, but I mean, how should I put it? I'm losing weight. In fact, what was funny is when I went out bar hopping, I actually had to pull out a belt for one of my pants. I'm like, man, I gotta wear the belt really for sure for this set of pants.
So I shouldn't bring up skinny arms, or should I? I mean, is it a compliment or not? I don't know.
Well, how should I put it? I think the camera doesn't do the arms justice because I'm a dense muscle type actually, and so they may look a little bit scrawny, but they got some density in the muscle.
I'm messing with you, man. I'm messing
I know. That. Oh yeah, I love the, as I said, I love banter, and as is how should I put it? I'm teaching Mike Bluehair to get with the times with all this commentary and banter. So he's gonna learn, and then eventually we'll be able to sit down and have a true good old-fashioned debate and argument, and be able to walk away enjoying ourselves and laughing about it, and maybe having a beer afterwards.
And you could explain to him exactly why we need a state.
Oh, yeah. We can do that, but how should I put it? I don't think we could get the state into the anarchists, so... But we can sure as hell try.
Well, that would stretch your debating abilities, right?
Most likely. And as is, my debating abilities is still a parish kind of thing. If I compare myself to Mr. Metacore Jim there, I am like maybe up to his knees in my debate ability.
Oh, well, yeah, so if you compare yourself to the master, yeah, you're going to fall a little short.
Yeah.
Jim's been,
go ahead.
I was going to say, Jim's been crushing people on the internet for a long time. You got some. You need to get your
experience
there.
Yeah, I got to get my live practice in. It's just finding people to debate on topics that I can understand, and even then, if I don't fully understand it, screw it. I'm gonna hop in. If I'm gonna lose anyway, screw it. I want to be able to just enjoy the experience, because even losing is a learning experience in itself.
Exactly. Yeah, you learn through failure. That's the biggest thing, right?
Yeah.
Except you don't want to do that if you're a lawyer. Learning.
Oh, no, that would be bad. Especially you don't want to lose such a bad way where it tarnishes you, where no one just wants to even hire you. It's like, ooh. Sort of makes me wonder, yeah, go ahead.
You probably also don't want to have a spokesperson out that's saying things like, if anybody submits bar complaints, then you're going to sue them for defamation. As a lawyer, you probably don't want that.
Yeah, that entire... Oh, man. I've been just sitting back and just popping the popcorn and just taking a little bit of that salt that's been coming out and just putting it onto my popcorn and enjoying it for the time being. It's been quite the salt mining experience, that's for sure. I know quite a few other people have had their... interests in it, but I'm actually surprised it hasn't really gotten too much more attention than what it has. But you never know, that could change, and if everybody else starts dogpiling from the outside, that's going to be a really interesting change in the optics right there.
So I'm not a huge fan of drama, but if you were gonna put your bettings on who caves, which side do you think's gonna cave?
It's hard to say. I'm still torn. It's 50-50 for me right now. We'll find out. The Potosi is supposed to be actually moderating the issue in the near future. I don't know if he's got a time and date set up yet, but it will be something to definitely sit back and watch if they end up live streaming it. I hope they put it out live where everybody can listen to it and then see where the demarcation line gets put and see who ends up crossing it first.
If that does happen, I strongly, I pray that they mute the opposing sides, because Johnny and Hemming are both just motor mouths. So it'd be great.
Well, for me, I just the best kind of case situation I see is just like how North Korea and South Korea have signed an arms stance and have not really done anything with each other afterwards. So we just need that between those two, and I think everything will be fine.
Well, so you think that if those two resolve their issues, then there won't be any more of this strife?
Well, that specific strife will be hopefully ended, but there will always be strife with a community as large. We've hit past the point of where any kind of major drama is going to be retained behind the scenes. I've watched a lot of communities rise and fall on YouTube and various factions and stuff like that throughout the years. I'm definitely one of the internet generation culture guys, and we're at the point where we could falter and all that stuff, but I don't think the movement's going to really fall apart. There's just too many people involved. It's taken its own taken a life of its own, and it will do what it's going to do. How long? I don't know. But as is, in order for it to properly strive, there's going to be need for internal criticism amongst each other, and also from outside audiences that are listened to. Like, that's part of the reason why I value your opinions and viewpoint, because you actually got some very informative stuff. And I'm glad to have you out there doing the videos that you do with about the stuff that we're doing and giving your critiques, because there is wisdom in some of the stuff that you're saying that I'm definitely going to look at, that I'm going to take into consideration myself and reevaluate. Now, will I listen to all advice? Probably not. I got to still think for myself. I'm still an independent person.
Lawyer, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, how should I put it? I'm pretty sure you've heard about the clients that the lawyer tells them not to talk, and the guy continues yapping their mouth off.
Is it,
and the lawyer's just sitting there
going
going.
On with Hemming right now? Is that he told his clients to not do stuff and they did it?
I don't have that much inside information, but I do know there was something along those lines with some people that were involved, and it's caused a bunch of headaches. So, as is, but they weren't representing that specific person that was involved with the release of video footage. So, how should I put it? It wasn't really strictly like legal advice that the person probably was not going to listen to. It's like, I don't care. I'm going to go ahead and blab. And so,
well,
yeah.
A lot of this stuff isn't legal advice. Like saying, like telling your client, you know, why don't you shave and put on nice clothes before you show up to court? Why don't you not get arrested again between now and your next hearing? Things like that. That's not really legal advice. That's optics advice. That's if the jury can actually empathize with you, maybe they'll be more inclined to see things from your point of view.
Speaking of shaving, should I shave this beard before I go to court?
Yes.
I guess, hey guys, I got some advice that says I need to shave the beard before I go to court. So
just from optics, I mean, trim it or something if you want to keep it, but just optics, you don't want to look like a mountain man. People aren't going to empathize with that. Now, you are in Oregon, so I know they have it's a lot more facial hair friendly up there. But still, the cleaner you look, the nicer you look, the more wholesome you look, the less threatening you look, the harder it's going to be for people to envision you as somebody who's out there stalking kids or whatever I don't know what they charged you with. I'm just.
Well, you actually sort of covered it. I saw your thing about my arrest, and you sort of covered it a little bit, but you didn't. I guess you didn't hear the charge or see the pinned comment that had the charges listed out. But it's criminal trespass 2, which you actually did look at, and then disorderly conduct, which you did end up looking at. They're technically city ordinance charges, but they're copies of the state law, state statutes there. So essentially they're charging me underneath the state statutes from the looks of it.
So the disorderly conduct was the contempt of cop at the end where you didn't want to comply?
I'm guessing that's what it is. I haven't seen any paperwork statements from them or anything like that. So I'm waiting to get my hands on it because I really want to read through that paperwork and see where their justifications lie. So
I'm going to pry a little bit. I'm not looking to represent you. Obviously, I'm not licensed to represent anybody in Oregon. But did you find a lawyer?
Yeah, I got. They appointed me an attorney. She's working the case, but I haven't been able to get a hold of her, so she might be busy. I've been trying to reach her for the past week, so hopefully I can get through through to her on time and all that stuff.
All right, I'm just glad that you do have a lawyer, even if you're accepting a court appointment.
Yeah.
If you're going with that one, that's
bad. Yeah, I didn't plan on, how should I put it? With this one, when they said, the charges are severe enough to warrant a court-appointed attorney. Yep, okay, give me the paperwork. I'll fill that out right now. So I filled that sucker out.
And they're contemplating actual jail time. That's what that means.
Oh, yeah, what was it? It was the interesting part is it's the disorderly conduct charge that allowed me to do it. If they were to just leave it with the trespass charge, I would have had to represent myself or hire an attorney.
The trespass charge, that's just a fine?
No, it's the disorderly conduct charge that justifies it. It's like exactly 6 months in jail. It's right at that border limit where they have to do that. Offer the court-appointed attorney.
It's 1 day in jail.
Oh, it's 1 day in jail for Oregon or for?
Yeah. For the U.S. of A.
I did a research thing a while back because I ended up I asked about that when I was dealing with the courthouse case, and they said I had to have over 6 months in jail, at least at the federal level.
This pisses everybody off, but I'll go ahead and say it.
Go ahead.
If you're facing more than 6 months in jail, that's if your potential sentence is 6 months and 1 day or longer, then you are entitled to, under due process, you're entitled to a jury trial. But below that, the state can give you one or not at their discretion. They can just do a bench trial. Now, as far as the lawyer is concerned, you're entitled to a lawyer if you are sentenced to 1 or more days in jail. And you're like, well, how would they know in advance? Well, the court said if the magistrate is looking at it like you may get a day or more in jail, then the magistrate has to make that choice up front and give you the option of a lawyer.
That is interesting news. That is great information to know now on that aspect.
There is a video about it on my channel somewhere. Not to plug myself.
Hey, no, plug away. You deserve the views. You have information that people need to listen to, in my opinion.
By the way, I just want to make this clear to everybody. None of my videos are monetized. I'm not doing this for money. I don't have a Patreon. I'm not looking for money. The whole reason why I'm doing this, and I know people think that I'm just a troll or that I hate First Amendment auditors or whatever, but the whole reason why I do this is because, oh God, this sounds cheesy as hell, but I actually really care about this. The First Amendment is by far and by, I have a big mouth. I love the First Amendment. And I got into this because my wife was filming on the side of the road. She was doing an art project for one of her courses, and we were doing it on the side of a road just outside Oak Park. And we got hassled, and I'm like, oh hey, what's this all about? And I looked up and I started seeing all these videos. So that's why I'm doing it. I'm not doing it for money. So if I do plug my channel, it's because I like the attention, not because I want the money.
Hey, as is, people are in this kind of stuff. I mean, do YouTube videos for all kinds of different reasons. I mean, hell, and what was it, Mr. Medicare there? He refused to have any kind of monetization on his videos for the longest time, and then finally he threw up a Patreon, which he gets, I think, a couple $100 a month for some of his just videos that interest him. And even then, he's just like, I don't care if it goes away. He's got that mentality. He's in it for sharing the interesting things he sees and wants to inform people about that he finds funny. It just wants to share it with the world. And you're probably similar. You want to share what you know with the rest of the people out there, especially when you're seeing people fuck up metaphorically from your perspective. And that's part of the reason why I do some of my little videos about the issues out there, about like the people getting the DHS memo wrong and trying to apply it in the wrong places, like a police station. In which case, I'm sitting there face palming so hard, I'm surprised my brains are not on the wall.
Police stations, military bases, they try to apply to military bases. You're like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
so, quick tip on that: if you go to the Code of Federal Regulations, if you go to the Cornell Law University or whatever, you could go up all the way to the base of it. You'll see that there are various chapters, and each one of those chapters deals with different things. And if it appears that there's overlap between the chapters, that's just an illusion. Like the one, I think it's 39 CFR. Again, I'm not in front of my computer. Don't hold me to it.
Yeah.
But I think it's 39 CFR that deals with the post office.
Yeah.
So they have a regulation, a CFR, in that Title 39 that deals with filming on post office property, which is entirely separate from that 41 CFR 102.74 which is in the GSA section. There's a, that was like 41 subsection C, another subsection C.
Yeah.
Everything under that final subsection C deals with the government service agency. They deal with all the, not all, excuse me. They deal with most of the federal property. So that CFR deals with them and their interactions with the public. And then the Department of Defense has their own, but a lot of theirs is statutory. So they have the 18 USC stuff to deal with people trespassing on their lands and filming in bases and things like that.
Yeah, well, filming in bases, yeah, you just don't do it. That's all I got to say on that part. Stick to the public right-of-ways.
Well, actually, before you go and say don't do, I would say more like don't do unless you're willing to actually put it to the test. And by put it to the test, I mean get arrested doing it. Because right now, all the case law we have on that has to deal with like leafleting or having campaign speeches or going door to door, stuff like that. We don't have any. Videography and photography are still relatively new in terms of First Amendment kind of protections, and you don't see a whole lot of cases on them. So
yeah, that is.
To avoid those sensitive areas, I think it would be interesting and fun, and potentially incarceratory to film on a military base.
Yeah, NJ Diver actually pulled it up for us. Title 41, Subtitle C, Chapter 102, Subchapter C, Part 102, Subpart C, Section 102-74.420. That is a mouthful.
Yeah, there's a lot of Subpart C's in there.
Yeah. Well,
that last Subpart C deals with the GSA.
I want to throw you a quick curveball here. Are you familiar with like some of the instances that have been happening the past couple of years with motorcyclists getting pulled over because they have helmet cams, and the officer is trying to cite a federal regulation dealing with the manufacturer of motorcycle helmets?
No, that's a new one. Do tell.
Okay, so the interesting thing for the past couple of years, there has been videos that have been popping up from motorcyclists where they get pulled over by the cops. And they tell the motorcyclists they can't have their helmet cams on their helmet because it violates usually some sort of helmet law. And they usually cite the helmet manufacturing CFR and the federal regulations. And when you look at it, it specifically states any hard item can't project like past a certain point. And most of these, pretty much every single case I've seen, it's like GoPros using sticky mounts to hold the camera to the side of the helmet or the front of the helmet or whatever their preferred method is.
So in other words, it's police officers looking for the way to generate quick ticket revenue for their township?
Possibly. The thing is usually I haven't seen anybody get ticketed on it yet, but I'm just waiting for it to happen. And
they're using it as like as a probable cause to pull them over so they get all their details?
For the most part, that's pretty much what I've seen so far. It's been when they just use it for a justification for a traffic stop. And I expect we'll probably see about 2 or 3 of those this year, most likely, since motorcycle season's back up. I'm hoping maybe I can get my hands on a motorcycle and start doing some motor blogging stuff again. And, of course, watching people be stupid and maybe get busted while riding in the large packs or something like that. Document that kind of interesting aspect.
Well, if you do come across a video of someone getting hemmed up over a camera on their helmet, I'd be interested in seeing it. See what's making it tick.
Maybe later on tonight I'll see about looking something up, and I'll try to email that to you. Well, send that to you on Discord there, so that way you can check it out. I've seen a couple of them the past couple of years. It's something I haven't dealt with personally for that 1 year I was riding motorcycles, but yeah, it will be. It's quite the chin scratcher, that is for sure.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. I do have to bounce out. I got plans tonight.
I understand,
I look forward
man.
to talking to you again.
All right, I'll let you know for Friday with the time, and we'll see if we can work that all out. We might just turn it into if timing-wise, if Mike is still not in a better condition, maybe we'll just do SNC, the next strategic non-compliance, where me and you actually discuss more about like the Atkins V night and all that stuff. So,
sure.
All right.
I look forward to it. Take care.
All right, later, man. There we go. And so that was Merbeast. And yes, that is Merbeast. The 3 and a 4 is leet speak there. Quite the interesting thing. I didn't fully realize he was a lawyer, but, well, at least he's passed the bar. I'm not sure exactly if he's fully practicing or whatnot. Wasn't PCM, it was Merbeast for DHS memo vid. I'm not sure what you're referring to, concerned citizens there. Oh, wait, someone actually posted a link, so I'll take a quick look at that link real fast for memo vid. Give me a second here, I'll try to pull that up. Who was that actually that sent that, posted that? That was, okay, NJ Dev. Oh, yeah. He did do one, one on the memorandum thing back in January 4th. That's what NJ Diver went and pulled up for us, or went and pulled up. But as is, he's got interesting viewpoints and experience and knowledge from a different perspective that me and Mike Blue here definitely don't have. And that's something that I do value. I do value his critiques. Whether I listen to his advice or not, that's all up on me. And just like anybody else that listens to me give out information and advice, that is up to them to finish researching and looking at, or if they want to take into consideration and all that stuff. But as is, that was quite the interesting thing. We'll just go ahead and see how's it going on. And sorry, Mike Blue Hair Chat, I'm not able to constantly keep you guys up, especially I'm holding a conversation. Let's see, stay within the shitstorm. That is very true, but that was about 15 minutes ago from Aiden. Fortunately, he is right. He only got a haircut before. Or let's see. Now I have a long luxurious hope. Okay, cool. Quite the interesting conversations that we got going on. Hashtag, it's all Johnny's fault. That is horrible. So I'm sort of getting a chuckle out of it. As I said, I'm just waiting for that to end itself, and maybe I'll talk about. I'll do it after it's all done and over, kind of thing. We'll look back at it as like a history, a small battle that history books might never, will probably never remember, kind of thing. But let's go ahead and kick it back over to. That's the wrong window. Let's see here. What was another thing? Okay. Oh, their live stream ended 36 minutes ago. So, how unfortunate. Let's take a quick look and refresh. Hopefully, it's now Houston and then, okay, we'll let that ad play. I can't really skip it anyway with this one. And while we're waiting for that, this was quite the interesting story out of Tampa Bay Times. Cops used dead man's finger in an attempt to access his phone. It's legal, but is it okay? And so basically, what this article talks about is this guy died in a police shooting or some sort of police involved shooting or something like that. And they showed up at his funeral wanting to unlock the phone using the guy's fingerprints. Buddy Boots, do not cut the beard or hair. I did cut the hair. I trimmed up the beard. I might trim it up a lot more before the end of May. Anyway, let's check a quick look and see at the archive. They were streaming for almost, well, yeah, about 2 hours, unless it's not fully rendered here. Anything happened while we were not paying attention? Okay, we saw that. Anything there? Anything there? Nope. Looks like it was pretty much an uneventful day. Oh, wait, this is interesting.
We'll let you know when you get off. says, where do you live? David said south of here. Cuba. Look some more.
Ah, fun commentary. So it'll be interesting to see the full footage from that. Oh, and this is quite funny. News Now Houston stopped by Oak Ridge City PD in Tennessee for getting in van and starting an engine on private property. Seriously, video coming with Teresa R. This hat was posted a day ago over on Am I Free to Go. I got a good chuckle out of this when I saw it when I was looking for quick stories to throw up. And did he have some more to add? No, he didn't have anything else to add to this. But yeah, that's quite interesting. I can't wait to hear the full story about what is going on with this incident here with the police officer. Let's see. Privately run prisoner transport company kept detainee and shackled for 18 days in human waste, lawsuit alleges. This is done by the Washington Post. I haven't had a full chance to read this, but this is interesting. At least what I heard. Edward Covor's 18-day journey caged in the back of a private prisoner transport van began at a gas station in Winchester, Virginia, where the waiter had recently moved from Houston. As Kovari, I think I got it right. Kovari left the station's convenience store. Virginia police officer checking out-of-state license plates informed him that his 2005 Pontiac sedan had been reported stolen in Houston. The report turned out to be false, and the resulting charges were ultimately dismissed, but not before Kovor's now 39 was arrested and assigned on a fugitive warrant. Thank you for the follow on Twitch. Let me pull up my live thing here. Who was that? Gotta load that all again. Thank you for the follow, Justin Goena, or yeah, Justin Goena. I think you're probably trying to play words on there, but interesting name. As is, I got enough tongue twisters to go through here. Was arrested and arraigned on fugitive warrant and extradited to Houston in September 2016 in what his attorney describes in a federal lawsuit filed Tuesday as a torturous ordeal. The lawsuit filed in U.S. District Court in Western Virginia against 3 companies, Brevard Extraditions, which conducted business as U.S. Prisoner Transportation Services of America, and its parent company, Prisoner Transportation Services. Wow, they couldn't come up with any better freaking names. Illustrated the risks posed by increasing the privatization of prisoner extradition, Kavori's lawyer said. The financial incentive to pick up as many detainees as possible, with few stops for rest, water, food, bathroom breaks, led to unsanitary, unsafe conditions of confinement in violation of 14th Amendment, the lawsuit alleges. It also accused the companies and their corrections officers of negligence in the and international infliction of emotional distress, or intentional infliction of emotional distress by denying Kavori needed medical attention. Realizing that this could happen to potentially anyone is frightening, said Jay Cobb, one of Kavori's attorneys. No one should be treated like this, no matter what they are accused of. If they are convicted of a crime, it's against the law. And it's quite interesting because one of the things that I was learning about when I was locked up over in the Springfield jail there is that they're starting to house federal detainees, and they're also housing apparently ICE detainees, or well, federal convicted criminals, and they're housing ICE detainees in their jail for extra change. Like end up getting those contracts with the federal government. Now, apparently, they were not fully compliant with the the federal criminal, well, the federal detainee or arrestee people's civil rights when it comes to convicted criminals. There's actually a convicted criminals bill of rights for when you're in jail. I did not, something I ended up learning while I was in there and talking with some of the inmates in the morning after I ended up waking up there. And it's sort of interesting because they were not compliant. They just got the security cameras installed for like 2 weeks prior to when I ended up in there. Apparently they weren't giving one guy his proper hours of day usage. There's supposed to be an active TV monitor in the common area of the prison area. Doesn't mean it'll have sound. At least you have something to look at. But nonetheless, that wasn't even installed. They had the mount there, but no TV. And so you're sort of like, okay, so what is Springfield Prison? Why do they have these people if they can't meet the requirements in the first place? So hopefully they got that fixed up since when I was in there. It sounded like they're working on it, but then again, we sort of have seen some bad things come out of them. Wi-Fi sucks in jail, lol. Yes, that is true, Jim. Wi-Fi does suck in jail. Oh, that reminds me. Jim, there is like this there's this guy who's live streaming. He was on some sort of live stream thing. And he's going through it where you click on it and you can link up with random people. And he ended up talking to a guy who was literally sitting in jail with a cell phone live streaming. And he's like, how the hell are you live streaming from inside the prison? It was hilarious. Atkins wanted for looking for people wanting to get active in AK. Please pass the word or let me know. Hey, Deadly Archer, get a hold of News Now Alaska. I think he's still active. I haven't talked to him in a while. But he's last time I saw him have a video up was dealing with the that semi-truck that took off its top, smashing a bridge. But he might have popped up a few more videos. I just haven't had the opportunity to see him, or YouTube hasn't shown me on the subscribe list. TV is in one of our guards' dens. Let's see here. Let's get back to the story here. Prisoner Transportation, the nation's largest for-profit extradition company, did not immediately respond to the request for comment. That's no surprise, and actually a smart move. In general, when you have a lawsuit levied against you, you don't want to make a comment. You just give the standard no answer kind of thing. I have no comment, or just stay silent. That is actually, I mean, in many cases that does help out. In that, because you might end up accidentally saying something that could easily turn the case against you. Now, does it work for all situations? No, not quite. Let's see. The pattern of abuse and neglect during prisoner transport for profit companies have previously been documented by the Marshall Project, but Covar's experience has not been reported. Robert Downs, the chief operating officer of Prison Transport Service, had told Marshall Project in response to the investigation that guards were instructed to contact local officials when serious medical emergencies arise. Unless it's life or death, we can't open the cage on the vehicle, Downs said. We don't know if they're setting us up for something. Shackled in chains so tight that they left marks on his body, Cavari was crammed in the back of a van with other detainees and deprived of adequate food and water, according to the lawsuit. So it sounds like to me what they do is they take these contracts for transporting prisoners across the country, and they're not adequately dealing with their basic human needs of, like, okay, bathroom break or food and water right there. And chances are, if this is happening to one person and there's a project that's documenting it, it's happening quite a bit. Let's see, it was denied daily prescription medication for hypertension and medical care for his blood pressure spike during the I'm not even going to try to pronounce that journey in 3 vans. Those 7 states over 18 days. It normally takes 20 hours to drive 1,300 miles between Winchester and Houston. At some points, as many as 15 people were crammed into the cargo van, exceeding capacity so that Cavari had to lie on the floor with other detainees' feet resting on his stomach, the lawsuit said. Yeah, there's problems definitely with that part. There is so many issues with that. The security agent took care of the inmates for U.S. Marshals and contract guard for 5 years. Now now knowing the truth of what's really going on, where it's all for Agenda 2030 to me. Okay. Without regular bathroom stops, Cavari spent the duration of the journey sitting in human waste and filth, both his own and that of other detainees, locked in a dark, sweltering cage, according to the lawsuit. Instead of bathroom breaks, drivers demanded detainees to relieve themselves in empty bottles or on themselves, according to the lawsuit. At least one person defecated on the floor of the van, and another detainee vomited, but the driver did not stop to clean up the mess, the lawsuit alleges. Water was rationed. The detainees were occasionally fed fast food. Cavori's attorney said his client suffered from heartburn, upset stomach throughout the journey. Without access to his medication, Cavari began to feel sick. After 3 days on the road, he developed a headache, started to see spots, felt clammy. Yeah, I could see that happening if you're sitting in that for several days. To hear about it was awesome, BB. The guy in the red shirt was upset with you. I watched the audit to the every now and then. Cheer. Yes, that is one of my favorite classics. I like to go back and look at every now and then myself. And literally, and that was, yeah, I think the second First Amendment silent treatment video I ended up doing that. It just blew up. Let's see. To maximize profits, companies schedule drivers to pick up as many detainees as requested without regards to where they ultimately will be dropped off, the lawsuit said. It's common for detainees such as Cavari to be locked up in the back of the mobile jails for weeks at a time. Yeah, that's not good. That is not good. That's unsanitary, especially if they don't have a chance to shower and they're forced to pee and crap on themselves. Occasionally, local jails will house detainees for a night. Otherwise, detainees tightly shackled, locked in steel cages. Cavari's head would hit the steel wall in front and from behind him whenever the van abruptly swerved. Lawsuit alleged that Cavari was unable to move, walk, stand up for 12 hours at a time. His legs went numb. Says he was in constant excruciating pain. I can say this much. If I was put in that position, I probably would have passed out from the pain just because of my not being able to move my legs and joints effectively and all that stuff. I actually have to, I mean, part of the keeping the pain down is getting up and moving and all that stuff. But even then, double-edged sword for me. But yeah, this is just straight up, I mean, a really nasty case of civil rights violations, definitely from what I can see. But that's definitely quite the interesting thing. And as is, it is 4:50. Let's see. Let's take a, well, let me take a quick look here. Is there anything else we might be able to glean? Well, let's take a quick look actually on the new. Anything new get popped up here on Am I Free to Go? Nope, just the thing here. Similar Canadian laws. Oh, cool. Let's check this out. Someone posted something about Canadian laws here. Freest country in the world with more prisoners than anyone, including China. So true. I see similar Canadian laws posted by, I'm not even going to try to, Hup? Let's see, I see a lot of, on this sub about American-specific laws and movements to audit and record. But there isn't an American-specific sub, correct? So I would like to, and I'm going to upvote you just because of this. So I'd like to support my fellow Canadians and what we actually have largely the same rights and freedoms for the things that as American buddies to the South. Our countries do have a lot of similarities. And it may not hurt to take a page from our freedom-seeking friends across the border, make sure that people know what we can record and where. So some things to think about and any for any other Canadians on the sub. These laws would also largely apply to any of you lovely Americans if you come over here and visit. And yes, I do want to come over and visit Canada at some point. Let's see. Cruel and unusual punishment. Yeah, that is very true, Patrick. Recording in private. Criminal Code of Canada, Part 6, Section 183.1. Where private communications is originated by more than one person or is intended by the originator, therefore to be received by more than one person, a consent of the interception of therefore any one of those persons is sufficient consent for the purpose of any provision of Part 1993 C40 S2. What does this mean? Canada is a one-party state. State meaning nation or country in its usage. As long as you're not, as you are a participant in the communication, you do not need the other person's consent to record the communication, even if the other person there is expectation of privacy. If there is no audio, then you don't even need the part of the communication to record, as long as it follows the other rules of recording of photography. So that's cool. The entire country of Canada is a one-party consent. Oh, and that also want to point out, it's very difficult to prosecute people for wiretap laws in when you live in Canada and you're recording conversations in United States. I'm not saying it's not illegal. You could be extradited, but I highly doubt they're going to go through the trouble of that over in California or Oregon or any other place that's two-party or multi-party consent states. Recording in public. You can photograph or record anyone or anything in public areas unless specific laws state otherwise, such as vital defense areas. These are protected right in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and I have taken a look at the rights and freedoms. That is quite interesting how it's worded. It is very similar to the United States Constitution. I've heard of the military-industrial complex. There is now a judicial, correctional law enforcement industrial complex, and there's also a medicinal-pharmaceutical industrial complex. Yeah, and soon, eventually, marijuana will end up hitting that medical pharmaceutical industrial complex. And we're going to see that have that's going to be one interesting impact, that's for sure. Let's see. Private property owners can prevent photography and video on their property, but not of it from a public location. Important. Recording audio communications you're not a part of is not allowed unless it takes place in a public area or a private area that is open to the public. Well, that's sort of pretty much standard of how it works over here in the United States in most cases. Let's see. Just to give you a heads up, Deadly Archer, I heard something about that with Obama doing something similar with the 2012 one too. So just keep in mind that many people have stated similar stuff in the past with various presidencies. You may record in private area if it's open to the public. However, if asked to stop recording by the owner or a representative, you must comply while still on the property. This also applies with public events and festivals. That's interesting. Because with the public events and festivals, that becomes a gray line area. And I'm pretty sure me and Merbeast probably would have like a 5-hour discussion on that kind of aspect. Maybe we need to get a Canadian in also, and just have this mass discussion. Anyone can be photographed or recorded without consent unless there is a reasonable expectation of privacy inside private homes, blah, blah, blah. Still, also, I'll point out, I don't see any citations for these, so... well, there are citations at the bottom, so we'll take a look at that. Being asked to stop recording for security purposes or due to local policy literally means nothing as long as you conform to any actual laws in the place and area. You don't have to obey these requests. Okay, and then they have recording of police. There is citation. You can read the Police Service Act 1990, page 15, for details on this. In Act, all law enforcement agencies are labeled as police, police officers, and officers for this purposes. There is no law against recording police. Police officers have no privacy rights or expectation of privacy when executing their duties. Preventing a person from taking recordings in public like using white noise or strobe light effects, is considered a prima facie infringement on the Charter of Freedoms. It is something police officers can be reported for. Makes you wonder. Let's see here. You cannot interfere with police officers executing their duties. However, recording or photography does not in and of itself constitute interference. Your equipment can only be confiscated, taken if you are arrested or by a warrant, and only by law enforcement itself. You cannot be forced to unlock a device or delete any photos or recordings. According to the Police Service Act, RSO 1990, page 15, 801, a police officer is guilty of misconduct if they commit an offense described in the prescribed code of conduct. A list of general offenses can be found in OG regulations, General Code of Conduct 2.1. Of special interest is 2.1. Use of profane, abusive, or insulting language or otherwise uncivil to a member of public. We Canadians take being polite seriously. And you know what is very interesting is we covered a couple weeks ago on my channel. Actually, no, I think it was a strategic non-compliance, where a guy up in Canada had an officer be really aggressive, be unprofessional, and makes me wonder. Oh wait, that's right. They did say they filed a complaint, and nothing really came of it. At least that's what they stated. Nothing came of it. I'm having a hard time remembering it. If they found there was justification, they did some sort of punishment or retraining. But the general sentiment, if I remember correctly, was nothing really just came of it. They just hushed it up. But as it is, we are at the end of the 2 hours. As you can pay attention to Mike Blue Hair's channel, we do. He's out for right now, unfortunately, and I'm sorry for the Mike Blue Hair chat. I haven't really paid much attention to you, but there isn't really much activity over there either. I've never seen the subreddit. I gotta check out. Yes, Aiden, it is a very good subreddit to go check out. I really recommend it. I subscribe to it. I post there all the time. News Now Houston's now using it. He's posting his videos there. If you want sneak peeks, check out when he posts on Am I Free to Go. He'll post unlisted videos early just so people can have an early peek. So if that doesn't give you an incentive enough to bookmark that page or at least subscribe to it, I don't know what will. On top of that, you can catch Strategic Non-Compliance both on mine and Mike Blue Hair's channel twice a week, 3 p.m. Pacific time frame on Wednesdays, 6 p.m. Pacific time frame on Fridays. Unfortunately, Mike isn't really here to plug all his stuff, but he always says check out his Steemit account. Usually you'll have a link to that, and he's also got a Virtual Shield a VPN affiliate link, usually in his video description or something like that, he plugs. So if you want some sort of a VPN privacy or whatever, and you want a small discount or something like that, he's got some sort of setup going on with Virtual Shield. While I have not used Virtual Shield myself, I have used VPNs in the past. They're handy. They're great for, how should I put it, messing with location information, especially with YouTube ads. If you want to see what kinds of ads are running across the world, you can have fun with that. For myself, as is, Strategic Non-Compliance, catch this twice a week. As is, I have 5 channels. Well, 6 channels, 2 on YouTube. I have this one that you've seen, Bunny Boots Inc. I have BBI Drama and live streams. Link should be in the description of the video, or of the live stream. I have Twitch, Stream.me, Mixer, and Periscope as backups and making it difficult to go ahead and shut me down from a live stream. So if something's happening, or maybe it's looking a little bit funky on one platform, check out one of those other platforms, see how it's going on, see if it's improved. It could be the reception, it could be the, it could be just bad internet, it could be I'm being DDoSed, who knows. But it gives a better chance of getting video footage out, or at least audio out, if I'm getting hemmed up by the police, and it makes a great way for me to have fun talking with you guys when I'm out and about doing my weekend bar hopping / cop watching and all that stuff. Anyway, I will see you guys later on. I got some other stuff I got to take care of to be busy and all that stuff. And I hope you guys had a fun time. Check out Merbeast's channel also. You can find it just looking at the spelling that we saw when we were looking at the video earlier. And I'm going to go ahead and end the stream and get going with the other stuff I got to take care of today.